As we've seen, a lot of the crypto market actually start to move back to the upside and show a little bit of bullish momentum. We haven't really seen too much of that happening with the Pi token. And so I want to talk a little bit about maybe why. I think it's fairly obvious as to why, but we've seen some actually real news come out recently that I think actually could start to flip some of that, because a lot of the main frustrations and point of concerns for the Pi token were largely revolving around kind of the KYC process, the onboarding process, the slow, the slow move toward this whole new KYC launch, being able to get people incorporated into the Pi mainnet, a lot of that type of stuff. Well, at this point in time, we've actually started to see that flip, right? The Pi team has actually just released an article talking about essentially the mainnet accessibility and all of the people who can now access the mainnet, which is amazing news. As we can see right here, actually, the Pi team has actually released an announcement saying that they're expanding the accessibility for the mainnet ecosystem. So you can see newly released features enable more verified people to have mainnet wallets to directly participate in mainnet utilities. Learn more here. We'll go through that here in 1 second. Mainnet wallet activation features are now available for identity verified individuals, including millions of fully and most tentatively KYC'd pioneers. This unblocks their participation in and broadens the inclusion of the Pi mainnet ecosystem, including direct interactions on mainnet blockchain, Pi apps, local commerce, and events like the .pi domains auction. So this is obviously huge. This has been a major roadblock and a major point of concern for a lot of people within the Pi network. And this has been a lot of the reasoning that people have used to kind of make the claims that, Pi is a scam token, Pi is rugging all of us, all of this type of stuff. I don't think it's that nefarious. I actually think it's quite simple. I think realistically what we are seeing, or what we have seen over the past several months, is people just got a whole bunch of money in Pi tokens and nothing to do with them. One of the things that I've heard several times in crypto is essentially if you don't give your users something to do with your coin, they'll find something to do with it for you, and that's usually selling, which obviously is not good for your chart at all. And I think that's a lot of what we've seen from the Pi token. Is there's a lot of people who received a lot of Pi tokens, and sometimes fairly substantial amounts. And so when they didn't really have anything to do immediately with their Pi tokens, they just started selling off. And of course, that started at more of a cascading effect, and that kind of has put us where we are now. And so, but what we can see here we'll go check out the news on the mainnet wallet activation. We can see, honestly, there's the news on the surface, but then there's also some incredible news here towards the bottom that again addresses some complaints that a lot of people have had. So we'll get to that here in a second. If you are finding the information in this video useful, a like and a subscribe really does help me out. Also feel free to turn the notification bell on, as I am always continuing to make more Pi content, as well as content about other items and other tokens in the crypto space. So if you are looking to stay up to speed with all things crypto, that would be a great way to do so. Like I said, just feel free to hit the like and the subscribe button. But moving on, I want to talk about this article that they've released here. As we can see, expanding the accessibility to the Pi mainnet. What we can see here is they've said, inclusivity is a core part of Pi's vision, and Pi's mainnet ecosystem has just been made more accessible to identity verified individuals, including fully and tentatively KYC'd pioneers. The new mainnet wallet activation feature enables identity verified pioneers, including those who are fully KYC'd and most who are tentatively KYC'd, to be able to activate their wallet on the Pi mainnet blockchain. This unblocks their participation in and broadens the inclusion of the Pi mainnet ecosystem. So of course, this is a major event that is going to allow tons and tons of Pi users and Pi holders to actually start to use the thing that they want to be using, which is the Pi network. And here we can see this, they go on about, though mainnet migration is ongoing and the network is committed to speeding up and completing migrations take more time because in addition to the identity verification, complex processes and analyses need to run, and users need to take actions to ensure the right amount of Pi is securely distributed to real pioneers who did not cheat. This has been kind of the point of contention for a lot of people, is it's just too slow. There's a lot of things that you need to do. It's really slow. It's really frustrating. And so I think they've kind of churned out a lot of users and a lot of holders over this kind of slow and difficult process. However, at the same time, you do have likely those same people who are, mad about all the people who cheated and all this type of stuff, and they don't want them to get their Pi. So can't really have it both ways. So, we'll just have to kind of see how this goes over the next little while. And of course, the market will vote with their money, and we'll see how that goes with the Pi token price. So what we can see here is the decoupling of mainnet migrations from the ability to have a mainnet wallet helps expand access to engage with the Pi mainnet ecosystem to millions, while still ensures that all participants in the Pi mainnet have verified their identity through KYC or KYB. Eligible pioneers can go through the Pi wallet app in the Pi browser to get started. Furthermore, people who are not yet Pi users can access the Pi mainnet blockchain and ecosystem in a much simpler manner via another new feature released today. This feature is available in supported regions through third-party services that can integrate with Pi. Non-users can now easily obtain a wallet on the Pi mainnet blockchain after passing similar KYC requirements on those third-party services to participate in the Pi mainnet ecosystem. Important note for pioneers, passing third-party KYC will only enable mainnet wallet creation, and it will not have an impact on a pioneer's mainnet migration for the reasons mentioned above. So essentially, they're trying to really help expand access to the Pi network. I think this is very, very important. Actually, this is crucial because, of course, nobody's going to use your network if they can't actually get onto it. And so the fact that they're trying to lower the barriers for people entering the Pi network, I think makes a lot of sense. I think this only kind of handles half of the problem. The first half of the problem being that people who have Pi tokens, and probably their most important segment of the audience, still has kind of a lot of those main hoops to jump through. They at least can access the network now, but if they don't actually have their Pi tokens because the migration is still kind of pending, they're not really going to have anything to spend their Pi token or anything to spy on the Pi network because all of their money is still locked up in this migration process. So I don't think it's quite addressing all of the problems, but it is getting very, very close, I think, into kind of addressing most of the problems. And a lot of the things that we are seeing, I think, are overall pretty good, right? I mean, this is lowering the barriers to entry. This is enabling people to get onto the Pi network easier. This is all, of course, really good things. And like I said at the beginning of this, I did want to talk to you about the really kind of hidden gem that they added here that I think is probably the most important thing of this announcement, because I do think that this should hopefully massively expand the capacity for people to be KYC'd. What we can see here, note, Pi is exploring the expansion of KYC authority, the ability to perform KYC for pioneers to third parties that meet the same and equivalent standard. However, third-party services may not have the same scalability or wide geolocation coverage as Pi Network based on their own business considerations. So this is something where it's like, essentially they're going to enable third parties to do, or they're looking at the possibility of allowing parties to do KYC. But of course, if they're not really set up for the same scale or things like that, it may increase throughput a little bit, but maybe not quite the same amount of throughput that might be needed to kind of get as many Pi users and all that type of stuff on board. So that's just something to think about. Overall, I think this is a very, very good news update and a very, very good release. I do think this could maybe start to change some of the price momentum that we have seen recently. We can actually go take a look at the price chart here for Pi. And what we can see here on Pi is not doing particularly great. We talked about this at the beginning of the video. We'll go bring this up and kind of take a look at this in the full screen. As we can see, if we zoom this out a little bit, it's basically just been down only. We did see a little bit of that relief rally kind of coming here into the beginning to mid of April, but since then, really just been seeing continued sell-offs, continued consolidations. There's a couple of different things we are seeing here. Of course, we do have a bunch of lines going on, but let's look at what we've got. So we can see we do have this probably fairly key level of support here. We've touched multiple different times. Then obviously we have the major level of support down here at that 39 to 40 cent range. However, if we do look at recent price movement, we've started to interact with this level of support, but we are still in kind of this descending trend line, have not been able to break above it. And so I think the important piece here that we need to notice is, when can this start to flip? Now, of course, we may be able to use this support to try and bounce through this trend line. If not, of course, we do continue, at least from what we've seen so far, we do continue to kind of consolidate, and we could make it down kind of by the end of May into this point here, which would be just below 50 cents. So again, we'll have to see how price moves, how things go like that. I do think with some of these news releases that we're seeing from the Pi team, hopefully we can start to get a little bit more bullish momentum on the chart. From what we've seen, at least so far, it does look like the majority of the bleeding has stopped. So we could have actually found a bottom here. If you are looking to get into Pi and you're looking to kind of increase your position or DCA or whatever you're looking to do, this could potentially be a good spot to do it, because it does look like we are starting to find some of that support and kind of some of the the battle zones here that we are finding where people actually, like buyers, are stepping in for the Pi token. This is of course always very good news and necessary for a stable and healthy price chart. And so what we need to see kind of from what happens here, let's actually get the pen out. We probably are going to see one of two things happen, or I guess probably one of three things happen. So the first one's going to be probably come back down, hit this support level here, bounce, and then away we go. And then, maybe we hit this, consolidate, do all that type of stuff. Again, that's far enough in the future that we really, really don't know. And then from here, the next option would be probably maybe come down here, bounce off this, maybe come up here. Given that this would be the trend line and the level of resistance, probably would get rejected here. We have to continue coming down. Maybe we hit this again. And then of course, we start to see another move back to the upside. Now, of course, the other alternative option here would be something like this, do something similar, and then boom, we fall out and maybe have to come back down to this level of support where we could maybe, hopefully, see another hope at a bounce. Or of course, there is always the option where we just continue to go further down. So that's kind of like the main outcomes that I see happening right now. Of course, all of these will go up eventually. When we have no idea. There is always this last option where we never go back up and we just continue to sell off over time. I find that outcome a little bit hard to believe. Definitely not impossible, of course, but I do find it a little bit hard to believe just because of how many people are in the Pi network, how many people are using the Pi network, all of the development and all of the things that they've been doing. All of this, I think eventually when we get past a lot of the kind of peak fear and uncertainty and doubt and a lot of this type of stuff that we've mainly just been getting from people being impatient, when we start to get past a lot of this, I think this will actually kind of start to really help us see a lot more movement positively for the price, for the Pi network. So that's kind of how I'm viewing this. Of course, you do need to make your own decisions. This is not financial advice, any of that type of good stuff. But that's kind of how I see probably the short term, or I guess maybe I should say the short to medium term going for the Pi network. That kind of seems to be the most reasonable outcome for me. If you are interested in trading Pi, of course, I do have that link to BTCC in the description below. As you can see, we do have some trades open here. XRP and SUI still doing very well. Of course, I have already taken profits multiple times on both of these. And then Ondo, we actually were up close to, I think, 80 to 100% at one point. Of course, it has come back down because we are starting to see the market slip just a little bit. Already taken profits here as well, so we're just going to be letting this one ride. If it goes down too much further, we'll probably just cut it, set it for a minor loss. And of course, on the overall trade, this will be still profitable. And then of course, Bitcoin, this is low leverage. I am not at all worried about this one, down just a little bit, but I think we will see a little bit of resurgence there. As we start to continue to go further down, I'm not looking to buy anything currently right now, just because we're not really sure exactly where the market's going to be going. Of course, we have seen a little bit of some bullish momentum creep back into the market over the past, week, 2-3 weeks. But, now could be that time where we start to see it kind of sell off a little bit and kind of find some more supports at some lower levels. So of course, not looking to do anything crazy. Of course, you do need to make your own decisions. It's your money. You should be responsible for it, all of that type of good stuff. But if you do have any questions, comments, concerns, anything like that, just drop them in the comment section below. I do read and respond to all of those. So if you have anything you want me to see, that would be a great way to do it. And also thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next one.